So, your boy Frank now has a world record. He managed to do 15 shows in less than a day, well 24 hours. And I managed to make it along to one of them. I got the notification from his email mailing list. I saw that it said on there was a show in Leighton Buzzard. I instantly had to get us tickets. We just moved slightly south and we turned the boat around and came back up because I was not missing this. My partner, he's also a massive fan of Frank Turner, so I got us both tickets. Difference is, he actually has a Frank Turner t-shirt despite never having seen him before until 2 days ago. Well, a day and a half ago. I don't. I just went in my Emma Blackery shirt because the night before I was at the Emma concert. I was doing 2 concerts in a row. This was by far the latest concert I've been to. We were sort of middle of the road and it went from midday to midday. So our show here in Little Leighton Buzzard was at 2 AM at the Crooked Crow Bar, which is like this alternative punk bar they've got there. As for a support act, there was a band who played like hours before in like a normal slot that night, I think like 8 PM. We weren't there for them, but there was like a warm-up act, which was just this elderly couple with wacky dyed hair playing a bunch of records that they knew most of the crowd. Most of the crowd, it looked around Frank's age, but they've never stopped being a teenager. Sort of like how I imagine Frank is. And then, I think it was like around 1:58, Frank, it wasn't even like some grand entrance, he literally came through the back door, came in, realised he had to sort something, went back out, they got the thing sorted, and he came on stage, as ready as you can be, at 2 AM after doing another 10 shows prior, for show number 2869.
Am I tired? What do you reckon? Sorry, I don't mean to rude. Hello, hi, good evening. Honestly, good morning. Technically, let's be honest with each other.
Because this was like so last minute, it was literally him and a guitar. But I thought we'd go back in his back catalogue, but he mostly sang songs from his new album that was only released like the day before. I got the feeling from the audience we mostly wanted him to sing some earlier stuff. But anyway, he started off with No Thank You for the Music, which if you've seen my video about it a couple months back, I still can't get my head around it. It's have you ever done your part and try to look for yourself just when you look like a fool? It's all the haters on the desperate running valley drawn all the ferret and forget it was a cowardly contemptible, so thank you. I guess it may grow on me. I just can't get my head around it. It feels a little forced. And then he went into Girl from the Record Shop, which is another song I just don't get. I think I'm always going to be stuck in this position where I fell in love with Frank's older music and he's never going to be in that state of life to create it again. Me and my partner were listening to the album before we went to the concert, and there are, near the end, quite a few nice songs on it, but I had the exact same opinion of FTHC, where like the early songs, the really sort of big punky songs, I don't like, but then the later songs, I do. He then went into another one from said new album.
If Elvis isn't dead, let's kill him. The bouncer was just like, Jesus fucking Christ, kid. But it was a punk rock show, and my mate Chris's uncle, who was the only person we knew who knew about music, told us that punk was dead and that we were wasting our time. And he was fucking wrong then, and he's wrong now, and that's what this song is about. This song's called Never Mind the Back Problems. Every time that someone said, didn't you read the magazines that said the punk is dead? I'd have the money to waste my time at shows every night, so you can all go home if you want, but I'm set up for life. And maybe punk's a promise that was never fully kept. Johnny wants me selling butter on telly when I'm the slap.
But I actually quite like it. It was, I don't know the full title of it, I just have written on my notes, back problems. He mentions back problems. I'm 26, so I don't have them, but I have a family history of them, and I had them intermittently as a teenager, which makes me sound really unhealthy. It wasn't even about back problems, it was about punk music never dying. But it was a fun song, and damn, Frank seemed to write too many words in too little space for this song. And I mean, for 2 AM and having already done 10 odd shows, still surprisingly awake, and just about awake enough to get out all the words. I could just see in his eyes him desperately trying to think, getting them through his brain and out of his mouth. And he perfectly succeeded. And then he sang Letters, another one of the singles.
God damn it now, this wasn't part of the plan. I let you down, but please understand. You have to bear with me if I'm fucking this up, because the truth is I'm useless at opening up. Both of us knew it wasn't love in the end. You were more of a teacher, a distant best friend. I've been missing my message. I'm warning on you, and if we got on the phone, we tell each other the truth and say I'm tired of this making deal.
Again, it's okay, but the story around it was a lot sweeter. Turns out when he was a little teenager, during the year I was born, 98, he had a pen friend who he swapped music with, and that lasted for 3 years, and then she stopped replying until 3 days ago when she emailed. She's had like 20 years to email him. Maybe she was scared to, who knows. Then we had the last of this like chain of new songs. He did 5 undefeated songs all in a row. He ended with the International Hide and Seek champion.
Sunset to join into, just refuse to play the game about the plane and leave no trace. Didn't go, but now it's second place. International hide and seek champions.
About a man I'd heard of the name DB Cooper. I had no idea who he was. I didn't realise he was this fuck the system guy who hijacked a plane to jump out of it. I never knew this story happened. The only 2 plane hijackings I knew about was a bunch of Japanese communists trying to, I think they were like trying to fly a plane to North Korea, and they luckily got control of the plane again without letting the communist hackers know. They contacted Seoul Airport, told them, make it look like Pyongyang. And so they landed and said, we've landed in Pyongyang airport. But then everyone in the cabin behind heard that it was actually Seoul airport. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I remember is they landed the plane in South Korea instead of North Korea and tried to make it look all commie and shit. Anyway, the other one I knew about was all the plane hijackings of Cubans trying to fly to Florida. But yeah, didn't know about DB Cooper. Still missing to this day, probably dead by now. And then this next bit, he sang 8 songs in total, but only 2 not from his new album. And you could tell we wanted more from his back catalogue, because when he started singing I Still Believe, volume went up ×5 and even higher for Photosynthesis. Something so simple, something so small. Something tell you will have to grow, be an adult, every thought that I've fulfilled. But no one can explain to me exactly what's so great about slaving 50 years away on something that you hate. About me doing something down upon the mediocrity. If that's your road, then take it. But it's not the road for me. I won't sit down, I won't shut up, and most of all, I will not grow up. I won't sit down, I'll shut up, and most of all, I will not grow up. I won't sit down, I won't shut up. I raced to buy these. I mean, I got the email through. I was sat down, just immediately bought one. But I did that because I thought this may be the only chance I get to see Frank Turner in a small venue. With just there must have been like 100 of us there, and it was just him with his guitar. I thought this was maybe the only chance I get to sort of live what it was when he was starting out. And so I thought, and I imagine most other people thought, he would mostly sing his old songs, because that's the environment they were for. Those two, they were the two most memorable. Also, they're the ones, of course, we knew all the words to. But I really think he should have just maybe one song from his new album, and then the other 7 just be one from each of his first 7 albums. I think that would have been a much more memorable experience. And then he ended with Do One, which of the singles he released for his new album is my favourite. I thought, when I first heard the beginning of it, I thought, oh god, this is going to be terrible again. It's not too bad, I don't mind it. I'm still standing up, and there's nothing you can do. I'm still standing up. Then, because he was on the clock, there was, I mean, of course, there were all the niceties of thank you so much for coming out, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, it was really quick goodbye, whizzed out the door, waited tenaciously for a possible encore. But yeah, he had to jump in the car and go down to London. He just whizzed down from Leamington Spa, quick show, make it to London. I did go to the back door to see if we could leave that way, because it would have been quicker for us to walk home. But even then, she knew that perhaps there was a glimmer of hope in my heart, but she was like, nah, he just had to leg it. But it did mean that he comfortably made his record, because he reached the record just as the sun was coming up, because the record was previously 10. And just shortly after the sun came up, he'd finished show 11. And by midday, he completed it in total, with show 15 of the lot, and I think it was 2,875 of the past 20 years in Southampton. So, congratulations, Frank. And you know what? I may not be a fan of most of the songs I've heard of your new album, but I still thought it was an awesome concert. It was a brilliant opportunity to see you in such a small venue. And it was a fab night. I am not a late night person. I'm usually in bed by 10 or 11, and yet still I managed to stay super awake. And even if I may not be a fan of the songs, I still really enjoyed hearing you and hearing the songs. I think all that's left to be said is I've been Jack the Music Lover, and I'll see you in the next one.